Okay, on my table today is my OS FS-20 engine. Now this is an engine that I just did a quick look at, and after that video I was like, what the hell, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the stand real quick. I wanted to do a box to the bench run of this engine, but it was just one of those things where I just kind of couldn't help myself. I just felt the need to go ahead and put it on the bench and run it, and I didn't feel like dragging all that stuff outside and setting all that stuff up. But suffice it to say, the short time I did run it on the bench in my garage here, I could tell immediately that it had bad bearings and needs to be completely disassembled, cleaned, and have the bearings replaced. So we'll go through that, and then also you'll get to see this thing run also again. Forgive the gloves. I'm not normally a glove person, but the air has been so dry here in the last few weeks that my fingers are cracking, and solvents and oil and stuff make me have to wash my hands so many times that it just becomes really unbearable on my hands. So no, I'm not paranoid. I'm not afraid of any of this stuff. It's just that I got a lot of cracking going on in my hands. So I'm in my garage in my new makeshift work area, so the sounds you hear in the background are the washer and dryer going because it's Sunday and that's the day my wife does laundry. So bear with those things. And I'm not doing disassembly in any particular order. I just kind of, whatever the mood strikes, that's what I start disassembling. There's no particular order that you have to do these things. Now the sound of this engine when I started to run it was very much like what I heard when I did that 40 Surpass box to the bench run. It just, one of those things where it just immediately sounded bad. You see, I got good valve train action there. There's what the front bearing. See, when I look at that, you'd think, well, there's probably nothing wrong with that, but believe me, I heard some really nasty sounds coming from this engine. As I mentioned in my quick look video, when you try to look in here, look how small that hole is. There's just no way you can really see that, so I had to take this thing to work and look at it under a microscope to see the carbon build up on that exhaust valve. Now I'm not expecting to see a gasket on this carb. So I can loosen this screw up here that holds the carb together. Okay, see? No gasket. These early OS engines, the machining was just so perfect and so good that they just didn't have the need for gaskets. Now, let's see what the inside of this rear cover looks like. Ooh, now see that sound? Listen to that sound again. That's the sound of an engine that's never been opened before. That's what those screws should sound like when they pop loose from an engine that's been torqued at the factory. You should hear a nice clicking, snapping sound like that. I guess I could have waited till the washer was not making so much noise. Now likewise, I probably won't see a gasket here either. Nope, no gasket. It's funny because that bearing doesn't really look that bad in there. Man, I really heard some stuff. Now I did not pre-run this engine, so the piston pin extraction could be a bit interesting. I may end up having to really heat this engine up. Let's listen for these screws. Hear it? Oh, that was a bigger one to hold its rocker arms in place. I come here without my magnet again. And time for the big reveal. There's the top of the piston. Wow, I'm really shocked that the bearings sounded as bad as they did on this engine, because I don't really see evidence of a lot of wear here at all. Or not wear, runtime. They did sound pretty bad though. I'll take those out here a bit later. Let me get a magnet in here real quick. The magnet is just to see if for some reason I get lucky and I can pull those out without, but I usually have a couple other magnets I put on the base here to make this a bit stronger, and I don't know where those are right now. Oh well. On to this. Now here, what you're going to see, instead of a caged ball bearing, you're going to see just a ball. And this is where the magnet comes in real handy. You're just going to see a ball in that timing gear. And the one thing you don't want to do is lose that little ball, because that would be a really bad thing. See, you can see the ball in there, and it just rides in a bushed area, so there's no camshaft bearings to pull on this. Now I'm going to make sure this tappet is up. Maybe I can pull it out. See, I was able to push it up enough. See, this engine has very little runtime. The fact that the bearings sounded as bad as they did just is kind of puzzling to me. Now I'm going to put the magnet on here to pull this timing gear out. And see, it's pulling that ball out too. So this is why I have to be extremely careful, because I plan on putting this in the parts cleaner, even though really, well, maybe I won't. There may be a limited number of parts that actually go in the cleaner because it just doesn't really need it. So when I was doing the Surpass disassembly, I tried pulling those camp followers out from the top. And I tried using this technique with the magnet, but there was just too much gunk on there. But I want to show that you can, if things are perfect and in really good condition like they are with this engine, those should just come straight out the top. Of course, the other thing is, if things are perfect and in that good a condition, there's probably no reason to be disassembling the engine. But I know for a fact I heard a really nasty sounding bearing, and I don't think I'm going to have luck just with a popsicle stick pushing that out without heating it up, but I'm going to give it a shot.